All right, hello and welcome everyone to the Rebellious Noise. What a start that was, Rob, to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling Podcast. My name is Scott, joined by my favorite luchador, of course, with Rob. We are here to talk WWE again. It's time to preview and predict not just Survivor Series, but Survivor Series War Games. That's right, the branding is back this year, and we are going to see 2 War Games matches. So we'll be predicting them and the other matches surrounding them right after this.
Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. On this channel, we bring you some great content from inside and outside of the squared circle. We will go through and offer some in-depth analysis of the biggest events of the year, as well as bringing you exclusive interviews with some of the industry's biggest names. There will also be live show reviews, in-depth features, and podcasts. So make sure you give that subscribe button a slam so you don't miss any of the action.
All right, well, we ain't missing any of the action, Rob, because we are here, even though both of us are feeling rough. The winter's setting in now, of course. If you hear Rob speaking, when I give him a chance to in a moment, you'll hear he's got a bit of a rough voice. And I'm here with a cup of tea to try and warm myself up as well. How you doing, Rob, other than clearly being under the weather?
Yeah, under the weather, under the mask. I'm doing all right. As best as I can. The UK bug is hit the household, so just trying to get on with it. Really, get a cup of Bovril, and should be all right.
Bovril, wow. It seems we're on a little bit of a delay there because just by your reaction to my question there. So hopefully we catch up in a moment. For anyone watching us live, thank you. Anyone watching us demand, thank you as well. And of course, we are now on Spotify and Apple Podcasts with the audio versions of the podcast. So thank you to anyone tuning in through that as well. So what we're going to do is get through the night, Rob, together by talking about pro wrestling the only way we know how. We'll be talking again about the 2 War Games matches and the kind of rumors surrounding some of these matches as well. So what we'll do is we've currently got, I think, 5 matches have been announced by WWE as of the most recent Monday Night Raw. Of course, we've still got SmackDown to go on Friday. And if any changes kind of come up there, we'll add our predictions to our build-up show, of course, which we'll be doing live on the night of the PLE itself. But let's just get straight into it, mate. Let's go in heavy straight away. I reckon we should start with a War Games match. What are you thinking?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like you're on delay from me.
Am I still on delay?
Yeah. Unless you really are just that ill and it's making your reaction times very slow anyway. All right. Hopefully, sorry for the listener if there is a gap between us chatting here, but let's just sounded like the most unenthusiastic fake enthusiasm. Yeah, man, like 10 seconds late. Right. Let's get to the War Games match. The women's one will start on first. And of course, as you can see, sadly, Dan and Lucas haven't managed to join us tonight. Dan sent in these predictions, though. I don't think Lucas managed to do it in time, but I'm told he wants to make it onto the build-up show anyway. So we'll be back on a weekend for his predictions as well. But let's get into the women's War Games match. And you know what? Let's just start with Dan's prediction first. I'll go from there, and then I'll let you take it from there, and we'll figure it out after that. So the women's War Games, the prediction from Dan is Damage CTRL to win. Now let's just bring up the match graphic just there to kind of really knuckle down on who's actually in this match. Of course, we've got Damage CTRL with new member, of course. On the other side of things, and of course that is probably the biggest part of this, the kind of talking points for this match will be surrounding the kind of members of Damage CTRL and how that's going to look going forward. And then on the other side of that, we've got Charlotte, we've got Bianca, we've got Becky, and we've got, oh, mate, her name's escaped me now. Why am I blanking on her name? Spiky hair. Awful. Why have I forgotten her name? Yeah, this is terrible. Huh? You're not helping with being 20 seconds behind.
Shotzi.
All right, I did
It's
hear you.
Shotzi.
Flipping it. Oh mate, what a start to the pod.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
Shotzi, of course. Right. I don't think they're winning either. I'm going to go straight in with it. I do think Damage Control is going to look straight. No, actually, no, I'm not sure. Straight. That's too simple because the whole thing is again that there's issues between Damage Control under the surface. You would imagine with Bayley surely being kicked out of the group very soon. Whether it happens here, I don't know. Of course, Dakota's not in this match herself, but Damage Control looks like a team of 5 at the moment. And it looks like things are being done without Bayley's kind of knowledge, really. We're getting new members to the team and kind of things happening surrounding Crown Jewel. And she looks shocked about it. And then it continues on SmackDown, I believe. And she looks shocked about it again. So I feel like something's bubbling under the surface here. So surely her being the one that takes the pin gives them a reason to kick her out, right? So, yeah, actually, I think that's where I'm going to go with this. I'm going to go with Damage Control are going to lose. And I'm not going to bonus point it, but I do think it's because Bayley's going to be kicked out of the group from this point. So, yeah. Win for the team babyface, I guess we'll call them. Or team Shotzi's, then is I forgot her name. I'll give her that.
I'm still wondering if I'm on delay because you would have just said something and I'm just randomly laughing later on.
That's all right. I'll take.
Am I still on delay?
A tiny bit, I think.
I'm still on delay. Yeah.
Right. Who do you reckon? Damage Control or Team Babyface? Team Shotzi.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think something's culminating in. It's either going to start at War Games now with the stuff with Bayley, or we're going to get something along the lines of Bayley turns at War Games to help the babyfaces get the win. I feel like that's the natural idea. Like it makes sense to do that, but I don't know. But I'm definitely going Team Shotzi.
All right. Well, see, I think you kind of put a bit of doubt in my mind there of like, yeah, all these times these stories seem a bit too obvious. They don't usually happen straight away. So maybe you're right. Maybe they do get the win and it's later on that Bayley is kicked out of the group because that just feels like the way they're going with it. But I'm going to go bold because I think there's just so much going to be happening between now and you've got the Rumble in just a few months' time. Then we're on the road to WrestleMania. You need to kind of get storylines going straight away. So unless it is at more closer to WrestleMania, because then Bayley kind of becomes babyface or something like that, as you say, and that is a Mania match or something like that because she hasn't really had much to do at Mania in recent years either. So, yeah, I'm kind of second guessing myself there, but I'm locked in and I'm going for a win for what we've described as Team Shotzi. Now, with that in mind, we are going to move over to another match in just a moment. Again, we haven't got Lucas's predictions just yet, but we'd love to hear what you think in the comments down below. Let us know what you think is going to happen here at Survivor Series War Games on the weekend. And as I mentioned just a moment ago, we'll be back on Saturday night itself, filling in the gaps of any matches that haven't been announced just yet on our build-up show as well. If you haven't joined us for a build-up show before, they are some of our most fun streams to do. You think this one started chaotic? Well, that one's even more so, but in a more fun way, I'll say, where we basically predict the show and we talk about last-minute rumors because I'm sure there's going to be a lot floating around, just like there has been in the past few days, of course, around this show in general, because there's a certain name, Rob, that a lot of people are talking about, and that is, of course, CM Punk. And we'll get to that, I think, in a little bit. But let's move on to another match. Now, let's move on to Carlito versus Santos Escobar. Now, of course, Escobar recently pretty much turned his back on Rey Mysterio and the LWO. Quite awkward when you see him coming out with the LWO tattoo on his hand, but there we are. a lot of rumors about people being called up from NXT to kind of potentially either join the LWO or join Escobar, and there'd be some sort of like civil war between the LWO, which I like the sound of. Anytime we do that kind of thing, Wolfpack and Bullet Club have done similar things as well. It will be interesting to see here, and I think, I'm looking forward to seeing more of Santos Escobar as a heel. He was great in NXT with Legado del Fantasma, and just looking forward to seeing what they do here. Now, Carlito's come back, and of course, some people will probably expect him to get the win because he's the legend. He's just come back. But I think this is all about Santos Escobar and kind of moving him into that kind of new direction. For him to get the loss, I think would be a bad decision. As much as I like Carlito and I don't exactly want him to come back to a losing streak, for me, the story here is Santos Escobar. It's not Carlito. So I think this might be where Escobar gets the help, whether it is be from the members of the LWO and then they get help elsewhere with the other guys from NXT. I know Angel Garza was one of the people that I thinking would come up, and who was the other one? I'm not doing good with names today. Or they could, join the LWO. It could go either way, essentially. But I'm going to go in quick and easy with this one, mate, and say I reckon Santos Escobar is going to be picking up the win because he has to, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Am I still on delayed?
It sounds like a little bit.
Sure
what's
going on. So I'll speak. Yeah. All right. Well, look, I'll be as quick as I can, obviously, so then it cuts out the awkward gaps. But yeah, it's Santos winning makes the most sense. But my thought process would be he takes the two guys that are from LWO and basically becomes like Escobar's new group. And with Carlito then being on his own, he got the likes of Axiom and Dragon Lee, for example, as well as the two guys that you've spoken about that could come up. So there could be a couple of, and then it does become a new LWO versus whatever Escobar calls his group.
Well, it could be because the other two guys are the ones that were from Legado del Fantasma already, right? So he could just reform them. And then the LWO could take over Angel Garza and Humberto Correa. That was the other one. So maybe they go that way, or like you say, they could go either side, or some of the other names you mentioned there as well. But I think you're right. It feels like something's happening here.
Yeah. I feel like it needs to happen to keep one, all the guys busy, and two, to keep the feud alive, because obviously Ray's out with the injury. They had another knee operation, so he's out for 3 months. So if that's the case, they need to do something to keep this going. Because I mean, when Ray comes back, does he want redemption against Logan? Does he want something against Escobar? There's so much that needs to be answered, and if they stop now, it's going to be a really dead finish to a really good build.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think there's got to be something going on. I think in some ways it's easy to go, more kind of Hispanic people jumping into the stable, and it's just a bit too obvious in some ways. But I think it kind of, as you said, it kind of needs to go somewhere, because if it just ends up being without Ray, it just ends up being Santos Escobar being a heel, and the team disbands or kind of go on without Ray. I think it will kind of it won't really sit well, and I think there are a lot of people floundering because of it. So the best way to do it is pump new life either into that group or for that group to go against, because if that group's just going against Santos Escobar on his own, that's not as great either. Yes, Carlito could kind of take over a little bit more in the faction, but in this stage it feels like he's doing it in Ray's honor, and it's just a little bit of a tricky one if they don't add more people to it. And I do think that will kind of help, whether he kind of converts people away from the LWO or he just gets brand new helpers himself and goes against the LWO. I do think Escobar kind of building up a little stable does make the most sense.
We
go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, or we if Carlito does need someone to call upon, and he hasn't got the backing of anyone right now, he's got two nephews that would be willing to jump back in again.
You'd hope,
you know, maybe I mean, Los Matadores, or we can bring her back as a
Epica and Primo.
Yeah.
You're getting a run in there, Rob.
I do have a background interference, sorry. So, yeah, but maybe them as well.
Maybe. Speaking of Santos Escobar, we spoke to him when he was being much nicer than he is lately. Of course, chatting to Dan a little while ago on the channel, talking about coming in to the WWE with his mask, of course, taking it off, working with Rey Mysterio, the OWO, and even tells us a little bit of Money in the Bank history as well. So if you haven't already, check that interview out. Of course, we've got more than just predictions and preview podcasts on this channel. We do talk WWE beyond that and have a great opportunity to chat to WWE superstars like Santos Escobar. So give that a view if you haven't done so already. Let's get into another women's match, though. We're going to talk Rhea Ripley versus Zoey Stark. It was interesting, of course, on the last PLE where we had 5 people in that match. And we weren't quite sure why they went for 5. I did think it was a quite enjoyable match. If you haven't already, guys, you can go back and watch our reactions to it, our instant reaction on this very channel. We also did a watch along for Crown Jewel as well. But yeah, I thought it was a very enjoyable match. But again, we weren't quite sure who was going where and why. It felt like Zoey Stark would have been in this position anyway because of the whole thing with Trish Stratus, which went nowhere because Trish went away straight away. And then we kind of coasted, and it feels like we've finally got to the point where it seemed like she was going to be. So that would kind of make me feel like, oh, maybe she's going to win it. But at the same time, is there any need to take the title of Rhea Ripley at the moment? It's a bit of a tricky one there. So what we'll do this time, we'll go for another one of Dan's predictions here. Sorry, actually, I missed his one on the last one. Dan said Carlito to beat Santos Escobar. As well. So he's gone opposite from us there. But this time round, he has said Rhea Ripley is going to retain and beat Zoey Stark. What are you thinking on that one, Rob? Rhea or Zoey?
Look, I'm in two minds. I think it's great, the idea of having Zoey in that position, because we've got the stuff going on at the moment with Nia and Raquel. Looks like Nia is going to be on the warpath, but I feel like she's going to be the person to dethrone Ripley, because I think it'll go from one heel and it'll really push Nia as a bigger heel, and she'll get that bigger moment, and she'll get a lot more heat from that. So I feel, unfortunately, it's not going to be Stark's time, but I can see Stark being a babyface to actually take it off her. So in long-term booking, I would say that's where I'd like to see it go, because that would be great for Stark. Because I think Stark taking it off Ripley isn't going to get a reaction that they want, because people love Ripley. Stark taking it off of Nia would be a beautiful reaction because of the way it'd be done. So
it's a fair shout.
I'm saying, I'm saying Ripley retains, but I'm hoping it could be match of the night. You know.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, on the last PLE, really enjoyed this women's championship match, just hopeful for something in this show to kind of impress, because I think Zoey Stark getting that opportunity now in the one-on-one against Rhea Ripley is quite a big opportunity for her. Of course, again, we mentioned she was in that 5-way and did quite well in that as well, and did very well in her feud alongside Trish Stratus against Becky Lynch as well, and that part she played. So looking forward to seeing what she can do kind of when the spotlight is on her, so to speak. But I agree with you. I don't think this is when she'll be losing it. So my prediction is that Rhea Ripley will win. And I think that's the right decision as well. I know we kind of went in depth on the last kind of round of predictions and podcasts about Crown Jewel, about Rhea's reign, and how it maybe isn't exactly what people hope it would be as far as elevating the women's division and the title. But because of her work being so good in the Judgment Day. And again, it just doesn't make sense to take a title away from the Judgment Day, in my opinion, at the moment. And from someone who, again, I will say is probably the actual leader of the Judgment Day by the way she's being positioned at the moment. So to take the title off her, I think will make her look weak within her group, rather than it being a problem making her look weak within the women's division. So yeah, for me, it's all about keeping it on her for the Judgment Day. I think they will do that. Interesting that you say that Stark could kind of play the role of being the babyface to take off Nia, and how Nia being a heel could take off of another heel in Ripley. That is a strange kind of thing usually, because the heel chasing the heel and whatever doesn't always work out. But as you say, Rhea is kind of, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, pretty much a babyface as well, because she's so liked. So as are the rest of the Judgment Day in some ways. So kind of depends how it's played there. But yeah, I'm in agreement with you that I think that is a possible kind of scenario and where we get to eventually with these guys. And I do think, as you say, a heel taking off a heel isn't always a big deal, but a heel in Nia taking off, doesn't matter who it is or what she's playing in Rhea, is a big deal because of how much people love Rhea. And unfortunately, the kind of views people have about Nia these days online as well is that, ironically, they're just going to play into it and kind of good for them work into that as well. So people want to boo her anyway. So right, so that was Rhea versus Zoey. So we've both gone for Rhea in that one, right?
Yeah.
And so has Dan. So it'll be interesting to see again what Lucas says. Join us in a few days, Saturday night, for our build-up show, and we'll kind of find out there. Right, let's get on to the Intercontinental title. A big one here, just because this title hasn't been defended on PLE for quite some time now, and that's been a shame. But Gunther versus The Miz. Now, in some ways, this is a very obvious one, but there's always that kind of, well, we've got to lose it at some point, I feel. And also, they've, in my opinion, done a good job at making a storyline that makes sense here. This time around, let's start with you, Rob. What do you reckon is going to happen with the IC title come Survivor Series?
We have the greatest Intercontinental champion of all time going against Gunther. I cannot wait to see. I cannot wait to see this match, man. Like, turning Miz to a babyface. In the way that they have done it has been so good to see.
Yeah.
I mean, Miz is up there with with the IC title. He elevated it more than once. Gunther's doing that at the moment, and don't know if you've been seeing online, but Gunther said he's now bigger than the title. So at some point he's going to have to drop it, and I feel like he can be the world champion.
Yeah,
I don't know when it's going to be. I don't think Miz is going to get the win here. I do think it's going to be Gunther. But I think this is the turning point for maybe Gunther's downfall. I mean, he had great matches against Chad Gable. He's looked solid throughout. He's had good matches all out throughout his career at the moment as a run as the IC. I think he's going to continue that run against The Miz, and it'll be a banging match. Unfortunately, it's not going to be The Miz yet, but I can see it being Gunther.
See, I still got this thought of LA Knight going after either the US or the IC. Obviously, US, we've talked about the connection there with Logan, but I think even beating Gunther would be a big moment for him. So, I don't think Gunther's losing it here, but I like this story. I like what they've done. You said they're greatest IC champ, and I think that is debatable. Gunther even said, which I think was partly in character the other day, that The Miz represents what he doesn't like about the IC and the period he doesn't like, essentially. But I think I kind of see where he's coming from, and again, I think is partly in character. I think Miz is like the best in the bad part of the IC era, like bad eras of the IC. He's usually the best because he does quite often elevate it, and he is still a big star. And there have been some really good reigns that Miz has had with that title. But it is a different title at the moment, it feels like, and it is all about how Gunther's made it something in the kind of a new way. So he's reinvented that title, and to kind of put it back on Miz, I think would be silly, would go backwards for the IC. Not saying I don't think he can ever, he should never win it again or anything like that. I just think it kind of, even though he's like the best of that bad era, it kind of feels like it's undoing some stuff there. We're going backwards again with the IC title. So, but again, how do you go forward with it? Who does it go on? I think that's why I think someone like LA would be quite good. And then where's it go from there? But hey, but yeah, I think ultimately Gunther is going to win, and I think he should win, because I still don't think this is when we're going to see that title kind of change hands and who it's going to go on to, because it will undo it. Yes, Gunther will be going up to that main event, surely. But that could still happen at any time. So I don't think it kind of means it's happening here, but it's just that kind of little bit of a threat of what if they do? I mean, he is like a big icy kind of guy himself, Miz. You know, he's very much linked with his title throughout his career. So I like what they've done here. I think it is more similar to that time when we saw the New Day going up against the Usos to try and prevent them from breaking the record. You know, I think it's kind of things like that. It feels like that similar kind of match here, where it's just kind of getting us to that next level. And like you said, getting Miz to work as a babyface as well, I think is kind of gone down a lot better than a lot of people expected, and has been quite an enjoyable run. Speaking of enjoyable, we've actually managed to have a nice little chat with Gunther on this channel. And Ludwig Kaiser, as you can see there. We talk about fashion, of course, as you can see how fetching they look there. Their future goals, the IC title, and their time together on the main roster as well. Of course, a kind of deep connection between these guys, and cut their teeth essentially in Europe, in Germany, where of course WWE will be heading next year for the Bash in Berlin. And stick with us right here on this channel, because of course we aim to cover that as much as we can. And hey, you never know, maybe we'll be over there as well. So let's move on to the main event. But before we do that, I'm going to get us to Dan's prediction for that one just there. Dan has also gone for Gunther. Doesn't see Miz walking out with that IC title. So let's move into the main event. And of course, on this past Raw, it's been rumored quite a bit about who might be showing up on this event. We'll kind of touch on that just before we get out of here, after we predicted this match itself, unless it kind of affects our predictions, of course. But it's been said that they kind of wanted to not have people going in expecting a certain person to be the last person coming out on the side of the baby faces. So they very, 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 very much made it clear who it was going to be. And of course, that is Randy Orton. Now, talking about the men's, I was going to say bloodline match there. I'm just still thinking about last year's War Games match, of course, where we did have the bloodline. It was a stable versus a non-stable at the time. And that's kind of what we're getting with this one here, Rob. We are, of course, getting the Judgment Day. And let's first of all, before we get into the match itself, are you like me and just being very glad that we're seeing something with the Judgment Day once again?
Yeah, definitely. It's nice to see something actually happening other than then just coming out and interrupting someone during Raw. You know, it's always good when something's actually happening, especially, and I think it's the perfect kind of thing for them with it being War Games. Like, there's enough of them. The idea, I can also picture Dom being the last one out. Like, he's like, no, you go, because he doesn't want to be a part of the match, but obviously he has to be. So I can see something like that happening. I enjoy it. I'm liking the idea. What annoys me, though, is the fact that we had to get the announcement of Randy Orton instead of getting the big pop at Chicago because of these CM Punk rumors. Like, it actually frustrates me, because the pop that would have got in Chicago would have been madness. But now it's kind of half-hearted. Like, he's going to get a pop that he comes out, but it's spoiled. Like, because of these CM Punk rumors. And the thing that's annoying is they haven't even mentioned Punk. Just because it's in Chicago, that means nothing. Colt Cabana could come out.
And to be fair, I think it's technically not even in Chicago. It's on the outskirts, like it's still in Illinois. But it's but again, we'll get to what we think about the Punk stuff in just a moment. But of course, that is why they very much made it clear who it was on Raw, and then even put him in a graphic anyway, as you can see if you're watching with us on YouTube as well. Of course, we do have the Judgment Day, as we just mentioned a moment ago, getting their spot, as I think they should, deserving being in this position. It would have been frustrating to see a War Games match without him. And again, last year it was a Bloodline. For me, this year it had to be the Judgment Day. And even the same thing on the women's side, having Damage CTRL. Surely that's what these stables are for, and that's what these matches are for. So I'm glad we're getting it. But on the babyface side against them, of course, is your hero, Cody Rhodes, who was always the savior of the babyfaces these days. Next to him, though, is the World Heavyweight Champion in Seth Rollins. Big babyface himself in Sami Zayn. Jey Uso as well, and Mr. Randy Orton, of course, returning. As you said, Rob, it would have been great to see that surprise pop, but I think there's still that kind of feeling of it might not have been as big. I think any other time, that's what it would have been. It would have been, they would have surprised it. And to be fair, even though they massively hinted who it was, there were loads of cheers on Raw. So kind of a shame you just didn't see him come back on Raw and hear the music and stuff like that, because that would have been at least some sort of surprise. So I don't know, maybe he was busy or wasn't quite ready, or I don't know. But that was a bit of a shame. But let's get into the match itself, mate. We'll jump back over to Dan's prediction here, because his one is kind of an interesting. No, actually, one I'll leave it because it will leave us into a nice little kind of talking point in just a bit. So let's do our own predictions first, and then I'll explain that. I'm going to say, in my opinion, the Judgment Day have to win because they are the stable. But I have a feeling, as you know, is always a kind of risk with these kind of things, is that the baby faces just have to win. And when you stack it up with the baby faces we're seeing quite, right here on this War Games team, it's kind of, especially when you've got Cody and Seth, the world champ, never mind, Uso has been over himself, the returning Randy Orton and Sami Zayn. It feels like this is kind of a mountain too high to climb. But I'm going to stick with my gut and my heart and say, I think it should be the Judgment Day. So I think it will be the Judgment Day. I did see people online saying that maybe we're going to get an RKO to Rhea from Randy Orton. I hope we do. I think that'd be quite funny. And because I think she's got to be out there as well at some stage. I can see why the temptation again is to go for the baby faces, but I'm gonna go for the heels just because I think the five of them, I just can't get out of my head the image of a dominant full standing strong at the end of the night. They're actually going to benefit from it going forward, like they did with the Bloodline, which kind of, to be fair, sowed the seeds a little bit later for the kind of downfall of the team. But so maybe 2 years in a row of the heels and the heel faction winning isn't something they're going to go for. I don't think it's as strong as the Bloodline, whereas even though they're heels, they just constantly have to win, it seems. So I don't think it's as strong a case, and I might be losing here just by kind of falling on my kind of prediction from our heart here. But hey, I've settled down and I'm in for the Judgment Day, especially because JD McDonough kind of needs to kind of, I guess, get a win alongside him, in my opinion, to show that this version, this is the most complete version of this stable we've ever seen. So they need to win now because they're bigger and badder than ever. So they need to win, in my opinion. What are you thinking, Rob?
So firstly, obviously, I know there's going to be a bit of delay, but can you please back up the graphic? There's something I want to point out to you, which I don't know if you've seen. Am I on delay still, or am I all good now?
No, I think we're good now.
Oh, sweet as. Right. So if you look at Seth Rollins, is that or is that not his Messiah render from the last time he was in the Survivor Series?
It does look like an old render. I mean, he hasn't got a title with him for a start.
No.
Yeah. What do you think? There's some sort of conspiracy behind that?
Oh, I don't know, man. I mean, why would you randomly put that render in? It's a strange one. So that was my first thought.
Interesting.
And the second thing, I don't know if you see the announcement of the great announcement from Cody, like the little teases that he done on Raw. Did you see Jay's face?
I was going to say, I think I know where you're heading with this one. I did see Jay's face, and I couldn't help but wonder why. Because part of me was like, oh, maybe it's just when the camera caught him. But when the camera's like stretched out further, he's still doing that face. So it was like he was doing it because he was waiting for that purposely to be shot. It wasn't timing. In my opinion, he was doing that the whole time to purposely show us something. Now, instantly when I saw that, I thought, oh, this is meant to make us think that Jay's going to turn or something. But there's no reason to turn unless he joins the Judgment Day, which I know they kind of flirted with before. And then I've seen other people say, no, he was the reason why, or part of the reason why Randy Orton's been out. So he's just a little bit fearful of him because it's awkward. And maybe Randy, being the slippery man he is, the slippery snake, maybe Randy, even as a babyface, will attack him, and that's what he's worried about. Because I don't think Randy's going to turn heel here. Oh, I mean, he could be the new Judgment Day leader.
All right. Well, I've got one more thing to tease you and tickle your pickle. That's a weird sentence.
Go on.
Is Jey Uso? I don't know if you follow him on Instagram. He's actually put up a picture on his story, and it's got "When times were good." And I'll try and show it. I know it's very Bush League the way we're doing it.
Okay.
But it's got him, and then in the background, if you can see,
is that a title?
So the background's in the title, and then underneath is like a canvas of the bloodline.
Oh. I mean, the bloodline have got nothing to do with this match, though. That's the only thing. Nothing to do with it.
It's interesting. It's interesting to see what's going on.
It's interesting seeing his mind. I mean, you know what? To be fair as well, I've really knuckled down this whole Judgment Day thing, but it's not 5 of them, is it? Drew's not an official member. No. So maybe all this has just been to kind of get the numbers up. But they didn't need to do it. It could have been 4 and 4, just like the women's was the 4 and 4, unless they just really wanted Randy to come back for this. So
I have no idea.
Oh, I don't know. So maybe I kind of go back on that. But even that, I think Drew should be in a bloodline. If you're going to do it, go full force with it, man. Like, put him in the bloodline. Not the bloodline, excuse me. Judgment Day.
It's hard,
maybe I'm wrong.
I do see the idea of Judgment Day winning because it makes sense. They're the more complete unit. But
then posing with Drew isn't quite the image I was just thinking of, unless Drew's in the group officially. So maybe not.
Or at least as an honorary member. But there's been stuff going on with him and Rhea kind of backstage that they've been. Yeah. And if she's the leader, as they're now saying, you know, it's at her discretion who's in and who isn't. I guess.
Yeah, and I think it should be. I think they should I think they should win, and then they should say to Drew, look, man, we work well together. You know, like, and he does fully come into the fold. I think that would be good.
Can we get the visual of Drew McIntyre receiving a jacket from Damian Priest? Like JD Madonna got a jacket from Priest, didn't it? So
I don't think I saw that.
Did you not? It was like, I trust you now.
And he gave him a jacket.
And he was like, welcome to the team or something like that. And he gave him an honorary jacket. And
it's not like they all wear jackets.
And Finn goes to him, you're finally in now, are you? And then the whole moment happened, and then I think JD went for a match. But I would love to see it, or even if he just goes, welcome to the team, hands him like a kilt of Judgment Day, or just
Judgment Day kilt.
Something.
A purple kilt, permanent black kilt. Well, it might be. I mean, again, what else is Drew going to do unless he just fully heel on his own? But like, he's basically turned heel now. There's no benefit in him going one-on-one with someone outside of Judgment Day. You might as well put him with the group. I know, like, that might muddy the waters is kind of, you know, water down what Judgment Day is. Now we've got 2 extra new members in the space of just like a month or 2. But man, just whatever. Like, I don't think it's that bad. Like to kind of add him in. It does fill out the loop somewhat. And I think if you look back on the history, say 5 years from now of Judgment Day, maybe you wouldn't go, Drew was a proper member or something like that, even if he does join, because they probably ain't going to last too long. But maybe they do. Maybe they last for another 2 years and Drew's the leaders for 2 years or something like that. So, but that does kind of make me worry now for my own prediction. I do think the babyfaces probably have a better chance than I actually gave them once you start stacking up those things there. I love the idea that you've come up with there, though, of Dom, because, you know, trying his best to kind of go in last, because, you know, really he's never been in an environment like this, you know, like it's going to be a completely different type of match for him. So I think they should play into that. I think that's a really good idea. Now, Dan has gone for, actually, have you committed? Have you gone?
So I'm going Judgment Day because I feel like that makes more sense.
Okay.
But then it's weird, just the idea of the babyfaces not getting the win. But I feel like they need to take that loss. They need to eat that loss, because storytelling is long term, especially for someone like Cody, like, because he still hasn't, a lot of them still haven't been able to finish what they need to do, like, especially with Cody being, he beat Brock, he beat someone else. So by him not beating the Judgment Day as a group, it's something for him to do on his own.
Okay.
Or there's something more to that, you know? So I feel right now, Judgment Day have to get that win.
Okay, right. So We've been pretty much the same, I think, for all of our predictions so far. Dan has been different to us, and of course, it'll be interesting to see what Lucas ends up saying. Of course, we will be back again for our build-up show on the weekend as well, where any other matches get announced, we'll be kind of predicting there, and just kind of getting ourselves and yourselves in the mood and hyped up for the PLE as we do every month. They're some of our favorite streams to do, so we hope you join us for it as well. If you haven't already, please subscribe and let us know what you think is going to happen this weekend. Daniel White is joining us. Hi, guys. What do you think of Randy returning? Yeah, so really excited about it. I'm not sure when you jumped on, Daniel, so you might have missed when we started talking about it a moment ago, but we haven't gone too in-depth on it. But basically what we said a moment ago was that we were shocked. Well, I guess not so much shocked, more disappointed that we're not going to get that shock return in the music hit, but we completely understand why with the kind of CM Punk rumors, which we'll get onto in a moment as well. But generally speaking, yeah, we haven't really spoken about Randy coming back himself, Rob. So thanks for bringing it up, Daniel. Yeah, I'm really excited for it, man. Really, really excited to see him back. He's such a great character and in-ring performer. He looked like he's having the time of his life before he left and got injured, of course. And a big part of that, sadly, isn't going to be picked up on now, which is Riddle. I actually thought he'd be coming back and maybe turning on Riddle. We talked about this a few months ago, didn't we, around WrestleMania as well. But yeah, that it is strange that he's been out for so long. That's how much has changed. But so he might not come back in the same way as, what could have been if all the stuff with Riddle didn't go down. As far as, you got to remember, Riddle went away for a bit and then come back and it just didn't really ignite after that. And now Riddle's gone completely. So it is a shame, but still, regardless, you can't be against welcoming back, one of the greatest of all time. So really excited for that, man. What are you thinking, Rob, as far as your general thoughts on the return of Randy Orton?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. What I'm intrigued at is how they're going to do it, because obviously if it was just a standard 5-on-5 Survivor Series rules match, it'd be interesting because Randy would be the last person out to get this big pop, right? Yeah. But they go into the cages. So I'm intrigued as to how they're going to do it and like where it goes from there. The other thing, though, as I just said, we have no traditional Survivor Series match. That's so strange to me. You can't. How can you have Survivor Series without having the Survivor Series match? It's like having a Rumble without the Rumble. Like it does, it's so bizarre.
We mentioned it last year. I do get why War Games links with Survivor Series, but in my opinion, they should be separate. If you can make Survivor Series, I think this is good. Don't get me wrong. This is breathe new life into Survivor Series, but I think there's a way to do that separate to War Games. As much as I like War Games, I know Lucas ain't a fan, and we touched on that last year, but it'd be interesting. Daniel's has another comment here saying, I've got a feeling he's going to RKO Seth after the match and focus on the title. I think that's a good point there. Randy going after the title is one of those things that kind of just makes sense. You can plug him in a gap anywhere you like. It gets his numbers up. He gets around to Cena's thing. And of course, there's always that possibility that he retires to Cena, who gets the 16th reign or whatever, or something like that. They could kind of bounce off each other. Fair enough. Now, it's not the person I want to see take that title over Seth, but we always talk about what route they're going to go down. Is it the person that never quite got a title and finally this is them getting it, or someone like Finn who did but not for long, or is it Nakamura, as we said just a moment ago, or do you give it to a person like Randy Orton who just straight away goes, well, I'm, again, one of the greatest to ever do it. I'm giving this title a little bit of legs here. I don't like it long term, but I understand it in the short term, and I could definitely see it happening. But as Daniel says, Jay wasn't happy about Randy returning. Again, I do think that is probably because he's fearful of what Randy could do, because as you've just said there, Daniel, at any stage you could kind of snap and turn on someone. And I think even as a babyface, turning on Jey Uso doesn't necessarily make him turn into a heel. Also, I think Damian will try and cash in on Seth in War Games, but fail here. All right, so
that's a good shout.
We're going to go from one Daniel to Dan from this very channel. Of course, hasn't joined us at the moment, but sent in his predictions, and he has said he thinks Team Cody's going to win, and he's bonus pointing this as well, Rob, that he is, or is this sure about it, that Damian Priest cashes in the Money in the Bank. So he thinks it's really going to happen. Daniel in the comments also thinks it's going to happen. What about you, mate? War Games, there's ever a time at the end of a match to have someone absolutely destroyed. War Games is probably a good shout.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea. It's a great way to do it. Does Priest have the briefcase back then? Because last I remember, Sammy took it, and I've been watching. And
ooh, yeah, but maybe Sammy brings it to the ring.
maybe, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's a good shout. Like, if there's ever a time to do it, it's
Like
after War Games,
yeah.
because everyone's battered.
Exactly, yeah.
This whole thing with the briefcase with Sammy taking it and stuff, like, I don't actually know if Priest has still got the briefcase. I mean,
Like,
I've been watching
physically
Raw,
got it.
and
yeah.
so I don't know. But I mean, look, if it happens, I'm all for it. But then, does he win or not? Is that
Yeah,
okay?
that's it. I mean,
Is there
cashing
enough
it in,
titles then?
and at the end of War Games, as these buddies are just looking at him doing it, maybe shock themselves, or part of it. You know, it will. You know what will disappoint me is a combination of these things. If he cashes in and he doesn't do it because Randy RKO's him, like that will really frustrate me.
Yeah.
And leave a bit of a bad taste in my mouth. So I hope that's not the case. I mean, I'm not massively against him failing to cash in. I'm not usually a fan of that. But if it's just not right, it's not right. But I do think there's an opportunity to give him a title and it be kind of worthy of that decision, you know?
Yeah. But then, like I said, he'll have 3 titles. He'll have both tag titles and then the World Heavyweight, right? So does that mean we could call him Damian Priest?
Hey. Awful. We speaking of Damian Priest with titles, we had a chat to him when he was the United States champion a little while back, and also had a conversation with him about the Judgment Day and his kind of idea for who he reckons, you know, the kind of person that should be joining the Judgment Day, essentially, because we're always wondering about new members and new official members as well. So if you fancy that and you haven't already, check out our interviews on this very channel with Mr. Damian Priest on the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. Again, if you haven't already, please subscribe on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, or tell your friends if they are fans of podcasts but never quite get around to watching them on YouTube. That might be a way to get them involved with what we're doing over here on Rebellious Noise as well. But anyway, we're going to start wrapping up in just a moment. But before we do get out of here, just want to mention a nice little touch about the poster for War Games. Of course, we see Cody in the camo, and of course, his legacy is intertwined with this match, seeing as he brought it to AEW as the Blood and Guts, and without its original name, because of course his dad is the one that came up with the War Games itself. So it's going to be nice seeing Cody involved with an official War Games match, if you want to look at it that way. Of course, the poster I just put up there mentioned our build-up show, of course. So as I mentioned earlier on, we'll be back on Saturday to dive a little bit deeper into these predictions, especially if kind of things have changed and SmackDown that might have swayed us a little bit. But we are locked in. We can't change anymore. But it'd be interesting to see if we could have had the chance, would we have done so? And of course, if any other matches do get announced on SmackDown or in the 24 hours between that and the show itself on Saturday night, we'll be here to dive into those predictions as well. Now, before we do get out of here, I think we have to talk a little bit about the biggest rumor around this, which I'll be honest, I don't think is going to come to fruition. But as always, there is that tiny, 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 tiny part of me that thinks, what if? And the what if this time is, what if CM Punk does return to WWE this weekend? Now, it will be a massive moment. And I think it's been speculated for a while because where it is and it being the top 4 or 5 PLE. But if it weren't for that, I don't think it'd be something people thought was realistic at all. I do think the opportunity is there. I do think the door is open eventually. And I, never say never in this business. And the amount of people that come back, then we expected them never to, and gone into the Hall of Fame, we expected them never to. I do think there is a possibility, but I do think also that there's a chance he's somewhat too hot to handle for WWE right now. But if there's ever a time to cash in on his hype, it's kind of now as well, So there is that. But then you could also say absence makes the heart grow fonder and all that. We were all jumping all over the internet when he was out for 7 odd years and came back as well. So interesting. In your heart of hearts, is he coming back this weekend? And what are your thoughts surrounding it anyway?
I don't know, man. I honestly really don't know. Like, do I want to see it happen? Yeah, that'd be cool. The other side of me, though, like let's say the other coin is why? Like, why does he need to come back? Do you know what I mean? Like, I get it. I love Punk. I was a massive CM Punk fan. You know, especially like the summer of Punk. Both of them, the AEW one and the one in WWE. But why? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I know strike while the iron's hot, and we always say if there's a time for it to happen, is do it now while it's hot.
Yeah.
But with Punk just coming back, is there a reason? Because him just coming out.
There's a lot going on in WWE where they don't need him at the moment.
Yeah.
But to capitalize on some buzz like that is never a bad thing in that sense. So it will be, be a massive moment. Oh, it's like I'm getting choked up about this one, mate. It'd be a massive, massive moment. But I do think fans are kind of burnt out. We talked about this. If you haven't already, go back and check out the stream we did when he left AEW as well. Just kind of talking about this kind of chaotic, couple of years we've seen with CM Punk lately, and it is a shame because again, just like you said there, mate, I was a massive CM Punk fan, and if you come out and we heard Cult of Personality on this weekend, I'd lose my mind. Like I'd be so excited, but that would be it, just a moment. Like there is nothing at the moment because of how burnt I've been by a lot of it that makes me think, you know what? And this is the feud I want him to go into. Like I don't have anything. Of course, there's another possible place he does slot into this show, which maybe we'll get into in a moment. But what was you going to say there?
I was going to say, I think the thing that annoys me, and obviously I know we are a wrestling, do you want to put it as a journalist kind of, we don't do a column, but we talk about news and all that sort of stuff, so we are kind of within that wrestling media world. But it's the false hope from, I think, without branding them, other guys that think they got insiders in these dirt sheets, because now this is a situation where, to me, if Punk doesn't come back, people are going to go, oh, he didn't turn up, but he wasn't promised. So you're going to get angry about something that didn't happen, but wasn't even promised. So
and WWE themselves has kind of really gone all out to make us not think he's coming back. Not to surprise us, but to not make us get annoyed with this whole Randy Orton announcement.
So, and that's what I mean. So it's such an awful situation because if he doesn't come back, fans are irritated and that could put a stain on Survivor Series.
And it's no one's fault, really, yeah.
Exactly. And the people that are to blame are the ones that are trying to get all this inside scoop. And there is no inside scoop.
Fake stuff, because even the most kind of reputable journalists, of course, have basically said, look, as far as I know, there is no plan. But, like, could it change? Yeah. Like, could there something be going on in the secret? Yeah. And could there have been talks? Yeah. But, like, no one's saying it. Like, we're not, like, it's not like it was when he came back to wrestling and came to AEW where it was, like, pretty kind of clear what was going on. And we've been here before, like as you said, we get ourselves hyped up as wrestling fans and then we get annoyed. It's not in our fault. And sometimes we get annoyed that WWE don't kind of read the room and at least try and protect themselves or protect the fans because, all right, it's not their fault, but we've stumbled into this sort of thing. At least don't play into it in the wrong way. Don't have a surprise or anything like that. And they've kind of done that in one sense with the Randy Orton thing. But then there's this other kind of thing with Nakamura where they are leaving themselves open to it as well. So it's a bit of a tricky situation there. But ultimately...
So I think different with the Nakamura thing.
All right, so we'll get to Nakamura thing in just a second. But ultimately, Gunther here right now, what are you saying? I think he's not coming back this weekend. Would I be surprised? Like, massively excited surprised, yeah. But I wouldn't be massively surprised if they kind of pulled it off because they are the WWE and he is CM Punk. They can come to some sort of agreement, I'm sure. But I just don't know if it's right now. So for me, if you just ask me straight up, is CM Punk coming back this weekend? It's no. I do think it's possible. Would I like to see it? Yes. But that's probably as far as it goes. And then come Saturday when everybody's excited and the rumors just get that much more kind of magnified and whatever else. But at the moment, mate, a few days out from the event, is he coming back?
No, I don't think so, man.
No.
Like,
it's just coincidence.
If he does, it'll be amazing. It'll be so good to see. And I would love them to do it as well. And I know it's proper childish in the way that I'm going to say it. But you see how he came off at AEW right? And they had this whole big thing. I would love them to do the exact same thing if he was to return to WWE. Like the whole thing, get a crowd, someone from the crowd crying with their hands, but like just to really like, we've got him now.
Come on,
you know,
stop sowing this division, mate. You're usually against that sort of thing.
I am, but it would just be so funny. I mean, all they've done so recently, AEW, is just take stabs at WWE. And look, I watched AEW the other day. I thought it was great. I really enjoyed it. I watched Impact. I absolutely loved that. You know, I've started trying to watch Major League Wrestling. I just love watching wrestling.
Yeah.
But sometimes, you know, when you think you're actually just irritating me now, and it's time we throw something back at you. So I think if they was to do that, that'd be so funny. But is he returning? I don't think so. I just can't see it. If he does, man, I'll be happy. Like it's more merch, isn't it?
I think the only way he comes back is if it's the stars have aligned and it's manifested by the fans, like from going, oh, it's in Illinois and Survivor Series is a big event. Oh, and like he hasn't been doing anything. And then Punk himself jokingly playing into things online as well. Of course, not only with this, you know, the rumors of him being back in AEW and it all being a work, which I think would be more of a big surprise and absolutely incredible
the devil
if he was the one under the mask. But I don't think that's the case either way. But I'm still going to get excited about it just in case. Because that was in my heart. That's the way I want. Because I want it all to not have been true. What happened? You know, because I don't like what happened. You know, so you know, it's just on a human level. It wasn't good for business. It'd be a crazy risk for them to work everyone. But man, it would be massive if it paid off. So anyway, we could see either one happen because the crazy world of wrestling is exactly that, the crazy world of wrestling. So we'll see. Now, again, we'll be here on the weekend to cover it in more detail. But I do think if he comes back, it's not because of the reason everybody thought in the first place. It's because the hype has got so high and WWE maybe have started to look at things going, you know what, maybe we could do that. I don't think it was something that's been planned for months. If it happens, it's something that's happened because of how the fans have reacted and the kind of stars aligning and stuff like that. Because I think they are open to it, and I think they might have accelerated that because of all the hype and thought, you know what, maybe we should cash in on this rather than give it the extra years breathing space we were going to do further down the line. But anyway, that's enough CM Punk talk. Let's get into the kind of last kind of possible surprise here with Nakamura. Who is Nakamura referring to? I've seen people talk about people within the company. AJ Styles, for example. A few days ago, people were really hyping up. They could be Okada. Of course, there was a lot of stories going around recently about Okada potentially being, you know, reached out to by WWE as well. So what do you think is going on with this Nakamura situation? Is it someone from inside, someone from an outside? Or is Nakamura just going to just chat a load of rubbish on the night and not face anyone?
Yeah. Look, the idea of it being Okada would be incredible for me. You know, anyone from Japan, if you're a New Japan fan, Okada is up there. I'll be honest, I don't watch much New Japan. I do struggle when it comes to watching it. It's not the wrestling or the content. I think it's the portrayal and the production of the way it's done. So I watch it, but I mean, as you've said on Talking Beans, it's a different type of show,
presentation.
You know, presentation. Everything's so different, and I love watching it. But sometimes I can't get into the matches at times. But I think this is someone that wrestled in New Japan. Okay. I think it's someone that's had a brief thing with Shinsuke Nakamura. And I believe Nakamura is going to come out and issue the challenge, and maybe it's Brock Lesnar.
Whoa, that would be big. Yeah, I'd be interested to see that feud. It's not someone I thought of, and I think there is still that risk. I mean, maybe this doesn't happen at Survivor Series because if it could be the exact same thing they were fearful about Randy Orton. You know, someone coming out to not as much of a pop as they expect and maybe some backlash. Well, and I think the one to kind of do it would be set the wrestling world alight would be Okada, because Okada signed for WWE is a big story in itself. But I think there will be, but then again, they are smart fans in that area, because I was thinking, no, they kind of need a WWE guy. They might go back on it. So that leans to your kind of idea of Brock. I think AJ, as much as that would be good if they actually had a feud like their New Japan feud rather than their WWE feud, we've been there already, and I think that would make people go, "Oh, really? It was AJ?" And you don't want that. It's just like the Rey Mysterio thing. It was we always bring up years ago in the Rumble when it weren't Daniel Bryan. Everybody went against Rey Mysterio, and it felt awful. I don't want to do that about AJ either. So hopefully it's not the case. So Brock Lesnar, mate, that is a big shout. Be interested to see if it does kind of come to fruition at Survivor Series, or if it's going to linger on further because of those kind of risks. But who knows? Maybe it is CM Punk coming after Shinsuke Nakamura, and it kind of solves both of these questions.
The thing is, like, I get it, but why Punk? This is the thing. Like, I understand the whole.
I mean,
like, the idea of Punk being there and taking that gap and being the one to go, I'm here, it's me. Fine. But what does he have to do with Punk? There's not.
I think, to be fair, there's two sides of it, because number one is like Nakamura not being in a title feud is a bit worrying, because I think they did such a good job presenting him in a new way recently. It's been fresh and exciting. He kind of needs something big, and therefore not being in the title picture is a bit of a shame. But having Punk is massive, so that would kind of be good for Nakamura, number one. And I said earlier on when we were talking more in depth about Punk that I just think that, well, there's nothing that excites me about Punk at the moment. You know, like that makes me go, I need to go after this guy. But Nakamura Punk is something that we've never seen and would be quite exciting. So excited for Punk as well.
I'm not against it. I think it'll be really great to see. But where's the story? Like, where's the... Because he's saying, set me free. And if he keeps saying, set me free, he's talking about someone that has done something. Like, there's a thing there that, like, to me, it doesn't make sense. Like, it makes sense in Chicago, yeah. But if this was happening somewhere else, it wouldn't, you know, if it happened in London, you're not going to go, oh, where's Wade Barrett? Because it's London. Do you know what I mean? Like, there has to be a story behind it. Because if he sets him free, what's he setting him free from? Because Punk and Nakamura have not had a problem. That's why I'm saying it has to be someone like Brock, Okada. Like, it makes sense to be someone that he's feuded with. You know, if Nakamura has become the shell of who he used to be, there has to be someone there to reignite him.
Yeah, and
I can't see that being Punk.
It'll be interesting to see who it is, interesting to see how they do it, when they do it. Is he coming out to the ring and calling someone out? Because, again, those are risks at a show like that. Or is this something that gets dragged on further and it carries on next week and it happens in December or something? I was going to say the next PLE because I think Rumble's a way away, isn't it? But there's nothing kind of announced for December. So, it's going to be a bit of an awkward time, isn't it? December, January, kind of building towards that. Just
it's
like
not day one, is there, for January?
Yeah, no, day one. Yeah, so it's going to be... straight ahead to Royal Rumble. As things stand, at least they might announce something, of course, but we'll keep our ears and eyes open for that. And of course, keep yours on this very channel to hear our reactions on whatever news does come from the WWE camp within the new year as well. Now, thank you, everyone. Thank you very much, everyone, I should say, for tuning in. It is a long cold night, as we've mentioned as we started the show. Apologies for our technical kind of issues and stuff like that as we've gone through on, and apologies from us both for feeling a little under the weather, but I hope you appreciate that we've soldiered through to kind of get on with this as well. If you haven't already, please subscribe to us here on the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel, or if audio podcasts are more your bag, then of course check us out on Spotify and Apple Podcasts if you haven't already. If you are listening on those platforms, hey, follow us, subscribe on those platforms as well. As I mentioned earlier on, we'll be back for the build-up show this very weekend, getting yourself and ourselves hyped up for the big show, of course. And I'm sure there'll be plenty of CM Punk, Nakamura, Okada, Brock Lesnar rumors to dig into on the night. And who knows, by then, we'll be talking about someone completely new showing up to surprise us as well. But either way, really fun to talk wrestling with you once again, Rob. And really appreciate everyone that's joined us live or on demand or on the audio platforms, as we mentioned a moment ago. And of course, to those dropping by, giving us comments earlier on in the stream as well. Anyway, Rob, anything else you want to say before we get out of here?
No, I'm looking forward to the build-up stream. As you said, like, you know, there's going to be rumor flying everywhere, and, you know, so yeah, man, let's get to that build-up and have a party.
It's funny because at the moment you're trying to stay professional, man. You're like, I'm not sure if it's on the night. Watch, I bet the rumors take over, and you're like, guys, they're coming. Well, that's it. The build-ups are fun because emotion does take over sometimes. But we'll see you there, guys. Subscribe if you haven't already, and meet us back on this very channel Saturday night. Thanks for tuning in.
Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. On this channel, we bring you some great content from inside and outside of the squared circle. We will go through and offer some in-depth analysis of the biggest events of the year, as well as bringing you exclusive interviews with some of the industry's biggest names. There will also be live show reviews, in-depth features, and podcasts. So make sure you give that subscribe button a slam so you don't miss any of the action.